everyone, it's Phil again. Welcome to the Nuff said Bullpen, where we talk to people who have worked for Marvel in some aspect. And today we have a very special guest. This man, just looking over his resume, looks like a true Renaissance man. And joining us today is Mr. Kaare Andrews.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. I guess the thing I always ask people when I first talk to them is, when did you first discover the Marvel Universe?
Well, I actually have no memory of not having the Marvel Universe in my life. I've been reading comic books since before I could read. There's always been in my house, and we've always, I have vivid memories of buying them as a 4-year-old. So there's never one moment where I discovered them. They were just kind of always there, and something that I liked and read.
And like I said, you're like a workaholic. It seems like most of this. Well, you were an artist for the longest time, but now it seems like any book you're on, you're like the writer and artist. When did you discover your love of writing and art?
Well, as a kid, it's all kind of the same thing. Like when I was reading comic books, I just liked the medium. I didn't really make a distinction between the art and the writing. It was all kind of the same thing when you're a kid. And it just so happened that a lot of my favorite guys, as I started getting older, like whatever, 10, and started knowing people's names, a lot of the guys I really liked, their work I liked, they ended up being writer-artists, whether it was Frank Miller or Jim Steranko or John Byrne or whoever, Will Eisner, whoever. The work just always felt a little different when the writer and the artist were the same guy for whatever reason. And that's just always how I thought about comic books. So I always wanted to do everything, and I always, like to learn how to do things. And when I broke into comic books, I broke in as a penciler first and immediately started asking to write, and was kind of politely told by my editor at the time, Axel, who just started there, that writing is very hard and everyone wants to do it, but maybe at some point, kind of humoring me. So I just wrote something. And I laid it out. I didn't draw the whole thing, but I laid it out so you could read it as a comic book. And I lettered it, and I gave it to him, and it was like, well, what about this? And he was like, oh, this is great. Perfect, let's do it. So immediately, within that first year working at Marvel, I started writing comic books. And it was very important for me to do that because just from being a fan of comic books, I knew and understood that the longer I went not writing, the perception would be that I was just a penciler that wanted to write, or or something like I wanted very early on. I wanted to establish myself as like where I wanted to end up, and not I don't believe in like working towards something. Like people are going to owe you if you're just become the best penciler in the world. People are going to owe you that opportunity. I think it's more effective just to like ask for that opportunity early and prove that you deserve it and do the work.
Oh, that's awesome. I could tell that from your work, but and the first one I wanted to talk about, I just reread it the other night. It's still great. Spider-Man Reign.
Oh, cool.
I love this book. It's for anyone who doesn't know. I mean, well, first go out and get it. It's in trade and paperback and everything. The thing that hit me on the reread is I was just like, I love the story, and I'm just like, it has a classic. It's from 2006. It has a classic feel. Like it reminds me of The Dark Knight Returns, the original one by Frank Miller, just because it's the future. I mean, it's different than that, but maybe just it's the future of Spider-Man, and it's him decades in the future. But I just love this story. I love how you use his villains. I love how you honored the marriage, even though Mary Jane is deceased at this point. Spoilers, but I, as a big fan of the marriage, I just really appreciated the way you honored the marriage in it and everything.
Yeah, I mean that book was, no real secret. It was kind of marketed as Spider-Man's version of The Dark Knight Returns, and definitely that was a sort of touchstone, in the sense that a retired superhero, however many years in the future, who is forced to come back out of retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I allowed myself to just follow the character and not try to be the Dark Knight Returns in any other way than that, than just kind of like, hey, here's this initial touchstone. But he's the character of Spider-Man is completely different from Batman or Bruce Wayne, and it's always fun to reinvestigate these characters in a different time and kind of touch back on the things that make them who they are. So I really had a list of like elements that made Spider-Man Spider-Man, whether it was getting bullied or putting on the mask or having Mary Jane in his life, and his core responsibility of, with great power comes great responsibility. And my conceit was, if Mary Jane was to die, and to die in a way that was related to who he is, then ultimately maybe he feels he has no power. And if he has no power, then he has no responsibility to help the city or anyone. And that's kind of where that series began. And then I kind of chase it up from there. What would it take to bring him back? And what would it take to make him feel once again that he could help people and he had a place in this world that turned their back on superpowers and superheroes.
But yeah, I mean, I made the comparison to the Dark Knight, but I mean, it is different in that, I mean, yes, his wife is dead, and everything that's going on in the city, but it's still more lighthearted than like a Dark Knight.
That's different character for sure. So again, you don't have to worry so much about, like, as a creator, as long as you're honoring your character, they will tell you where to go. So I wasn't ever really so worried about,
Yeah, because Spider-Man's more like a, especially in this story, like a beacon of hope more than like a Batman.
Oh, totally.
But I know the one thing I wanted to ask you is, you had a young girl character in this, and there's one in the other book I wanted to talk to you about, Iron Fist: The Living Weapon. Is that a character you've always had in your head, or is it someone you knew, like based on someone you knew, or
in Spider-Man?
It's like I said, it's a similarity, like in both stories. It's not the same character, but you have like this young girl, almost sidekick character.
Right. Yeah, I don't know why I'd gravitate towards that. I think in the Dark Knight version of Spider-Man Reign, at that time I was and still am, but I was very good friends with a singer, actually, two sisters, Tegan and Sarah Quinn. They're in a band called Tegan and Sarah, and there was definitely a touchstone towards those two with that character, just because we were hanging out all the time, and it just seemed like, I don't know, their stepdad was a big comic book reader, and I don't base characters on people I know, but I don't disallow myself to have the people around me influence my life. So there was a little bit of Sarah in that character in Spider-Man Reign, and it just makes it fun to work on. It's not a direct cipher. It's not a direct. It's not the same character, but definitely, I allowed myself to, the haircut was kind of Sarah's haircut at the time, and just kind of like, it makes the characters feel real if I can just use where I'm at in the world at that moment and allow that reality to seep into the pages. Mm-hmm. And with Iron Fist, that was more of a deliberate choice. I was always very interested in the revelation, I think it was of Iron Fist's homeland, that it was a patriarchal society and women were not allowed to fight. And I was very interested in flipping things on its head in a way that reinvented and renewed that character. So Danny Rand was a young boy, Caucasian boy from New York, who was transported to that realm to train as a kung fu warrior or kung fu-esque warrior. And so that was more of a deliberate, like, well, now I want an Asian monk from Kunlun, and why not it be a girl this time, like as a kind of a direct a contrast to Danny's story. And so that was like, okay, well that, but maybe the reason I did that is because I'm drawn towards, I don't know, I have no idea. I didn't really think about it any more than that. Just like, oh, I'm going to do the opposite. Young Asian female monk character. Now she's going to be raised in New York to become the next Iron Fist, possibly, just to kind of in contrast with how Danny was raised in Kunlun to be the next Iron Fist,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if you saw it online. A friend of mine, a friend in me, did a review of the Living Weapon series, and we really enjoyed it. Like this, this had been like the first time he had read it. I had read it as it first came out. I know, like I said when we were doing the review, I love it. I love it because it's a totally original version, your take on it, but you also honor what came before, like the Brubaker series and even the stuff before that.
Yeah, I was very interested in two big touchstones for that book were the very original run in Marvel Premiere, and then the Brubaker Fraction Straczynski run. To me, those were the two big touchstones, and I tried to read everything, but I definitely reread those runs a lot on the way to building my story and my take at that character, because he's been written with a lot of contradictions in his history and his chronology. Like his continuity is not so set in stone. There's at times his father was the actual brother of the UT at the time, and then in later versions his father was just someone who went there and he wasn't related to the UT. You could kind of pick and choose what. And I think that's how you have to treat continuity. When continuity lasts more than 10 years, and Iron Fist was invented in the 70s, so that's 40 years of continuity. You can't honor everything. You just kind of have to pick and choose what speaks to you. And as a creator, that first original run was so awesome and so dark and so cool. And then the Brubaker Fraction Straczynski stuff was kind of a modern take on that character. And I liked both of them a lot. And so I wanted to have my Iron Fist fit with those two storylines. And if you're a fan of the character and a fan of those runs, you could feel like it was, even though I'm telling a different story, feel like I'm still honoring those worlds. As a critic, I'm aware of the response to the book, and I heard some people be like, it's a completely different Danny Rand, but it's not. If you look at those two runs, if all you know of Danny Rand is his goofy version in the cartoon Ultimate Spider-Man, it may seem like my Iron Fist was a different iteration, but really at the core of his character, I tried to honor like who is this guy at the core,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is for a lot of his history, he didn't have a solo book. It was him and Luke Cage, and just like you were saying, the original Marvel Premiere stuff came out in the 70s. When the kung fu genre was big with the movies and everything. So yeah, I think he has to adapt and change because our whole media has changed, and just the entertainment industry itself has changed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also excited to see the Netflix version of Danny. So, it'll everyone with these comics, with these characters, you take your turn with them, and you take your turn at bat. You try to hit a home run, and then the next guy is up at the plate. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
See, I'm always disappointed because whenever I talk to anyone who writing something that's coming out, I'm like, oh, so they don't come to you for anything, like any story ideas for the Iron Fist series, or they don't give you any inside spoilers?
I will say this: there has been traditionally at Marvel or DC or whoever, there's traditionally a fairly there is not a lot of interaction between actual comic book creators and the film creators or the TV creators. Like there is almost a deliberate arm's length between those two or three areas. and it's just kind of how things work. And I'm as excited as anyone to see the results of the Netflix run. And I haven't asked. I mean, I've talked to those guys, but I haven't asked. Like, I don't want to know at this point too much. I want to enjoy it like with everyone else. So I'm just excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I know the other thing I wanted to ask you is I've been looking. Isn't there a sequel series to this coming out, Iron Fist?
Yeah, so I am writing a book called Iron Fists right now. I wouldn't call it a sequel so much as a continuation of Danny and Pei. Mm-hmm. And right now, the last I heard was it will probably come out in the summertime. So a little bit after the Netflix stuff.
Yeah, because I've been looking online for it. I'm like, I can't find the release date. When is this coming out?
Yeah, no, it's not till summer. It's I've already seen 2 issues drawn, and it's we're working away, and per the publishing schedule, I think we fit in now in the summertime.
Oh, very good. I don't know if you have an answer for this or if you want to answer it, but
anything.
No, I was just gonna say if it's like picking between children, but who do you have a favorite Marvel character more than any other one?
It's always been Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Oh, always Spider-Man. Just because I actually have a childhood, love of that character that kind of surpasses anything else, and it'll always be that guy. But I love. There's a way to love almost every of those Marvel characters. I did a couple of years of Hulk covers, and I wasn't really the greatest Hulk fan when I started doing those covers, but quickly I grew to really love him. And there's always a way in to those characters, especially if you have a chance to work on them. Like just working on whoever it could be. I've never worked on a character and not enjoyed it. Like I've never been like, oh, I got to work on this guy now. Like there's always, once you start wrestling with who that person is and what makes them tick and why they're special, you always find yourself connecting with them on some level.
But I was looking over your resume, and you've done a lot of art for a lot of Marvel characters. You've written a few. Is there one character you really want to work on and you haven't yet?
For Marvel, I don't know if there is. I mean, there's a lot of characters I would love to work on, but I don't know if there's one that I haven't worked on yet that I've been really aching to. And the bigger question, I think every artist has a Batman issue in them. So for the other company, there's I would love to at some point do a little Batman story, and I always have ideas for what that would be. But I have never really done any DC work. It's mostly Marvel or creator-owned work. I always loved the classic version of Nick Fury, not the Sam Jackson version, but the like the Jim Steranko version, because I found those books as a kid, and I really liked that character. And no one ever really since has done that character in a big way, but now he's kind of been replaced by the Sam Jackson version of that character. I don't know.
Oh, that would be a great project for you, like a World War II book. Get some Captain America.
Well, I actually prefer the spy stuff. So, like, 60s-esque spy era would be pretty fun, I think.
Oh,
but cool. Whatever. It could be whatever. Again, the cool thing about Marvel characters is there's always a way into any of them. So it'd be fun to work on whoever.
Yeah, maybe it's just familiar with like your Spider-Man and your Iron Fist work, but I just see you as like maybe like, oh man, like he should do like a Daredevil or a Moon Knight.
Yeah, those are characters I like for sure. I just did a convention kind of sketch of a Daredevil, and he was a lot of fun, and a couple Moon Knights too. Some people, those guys would be cool. I think there's a Wolverine story in me that I haven't had a chance to tell yet. I much prefer the singular characters. Like I'm not necessarily drawn to a team situation per se. And maybe that's just because I'm a kind of a isolated single artist. But I know that world of like being one guy trying to do the best you can, whether it's Spider-Man or Iron Fist or Daredevil or Moon Knight or what. Like I've always drawn towards those more than like the dynamics of a team book, which is more like a family, you know. But again, maybe it's just me not having taken a crack at a real team book that has not awakened that love of that situation. So who knows? Who knows?
That's probably most of what I have for the Marvel stuff. I was going to say,
Sure.
I don't read a lot of I don't read a lot that's not Marvel or DC, but there's one book I want to jump into. I just need to find the time. Renato Jones.
Oh yeah, Renato Jones. Yeah, so that is my first real creator-owned book, and that is through Image Comic Books. And the 5th issue just came out, and it's being collected, the first 5 issues, as season 1, and that goes on sale in January.
Oh.
So initially when I broke into comic books, I had this big plan. Of like, I'm going to do maybe a book at Marvel, and then a creator-owned book, and then a book at Marvel, and then a creator-owned book. And that plan got a little bit sidetracked by I have another career in film and television where I write and direct film and TV. And so what happened was, instead of doing that, I ended up doing like a project at Marvel and then running off and directing a movie or something, and then a project at Marvel and then running off and maybe doing some TV or something like that. So that kind of supplanted the creator-owned dream. But there came a point where I had written, penciled, inked, colored, did all the covers and the logo design for my 12 issues of Iron Fist, and I felt someone pointed out that no one in the history of Marvel Comics has ever done that before, and I felt like, well, that's cool, but then what's next? Like, what do I want to do after that? It was like an exhausting process, but I felt like I really achieved something as a creator. And what was the new challenge? And I just remembered I had never fulfilled that promise I made to myself way back when, before I broke in, that I was going to do creator-owned work, and it felt like that was the time to go and do Renato Jones. And get that, like, you know, make good on that thing I said I would do before coming back and doing some more Marvel stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, I want to get into this book so bad. I promise I will get into it. I just need to find it and read it. If not before, I know I have a lot of time off around Christmas. I will.
Yeah, you should totally check it out. I mean, it's on sale at Comixology, for instance, or the trade comes out in January. And it's basically the story of a guy who hides amongst the super rich to judge them for their super rich crimes. So he is kind of a little bit Dexter, a little bit James Bond, a little bit Batman, a little bit of it, just whatever I'm into. And it's fun. It's just super crazy, super black humored, satirical world of just, you know, super rich evil people getting their restitution handed to them by my conflicted character.
Is it much more freeing than like a Marvel book? I mean, the Marvel books are great, but not only did you create this, there's not that decades of backstory, so you can take it wherever you want to go.
Yeah, I found myself feeling like I had to push myself. I always, my Marvel projects I push the boundaries pretty hard with my Marvel work. They're always a little more, well, not always. Sometimes they're a little more adult than the normal Marvel project. And I found myself doing my Image book, and I was like, well, now that I can do anything, I better push pretty hard. I better challenge myself. I better give myself a reason, right? If I have the situation where I could do anything, I better do something that I couldn't do at Marvel, or I couldn't do at DC, or I couldn't do at another publisher. It better be, you know, I owe it to myself to or I have to challenge myself to find. And so I end up drawing it's gotten pretty fun and pretty crazy. And I'm often laughing while I'm drawing these pages at how crazy a world I've created and what crazy things. I don't know. It's a pretty fun book to work on.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's all I have.
Cool.
Why don't you tell everyone where can they find you online, and like any other projects you want to plug? Please feel free.
Yeah, so you can find me on the Twitter or the Facebook, and that's just Kaare Andrews. Look for my name, Kaare Andrews. And then my project I'm working on now, Iron Fist: The Living Weapon, is available in trades. I think it's sold out at a distributor level, and I believe if my Amazon the data is right, that it's being collected into an omnibus in time for the Netflix show. So catch up on that. It's not a diamond yet, but I believe you can pre-order it at Amazon if you just look for that. And then Renato Jones' Living Weapon, issues 1 to 5 are at your local comic book store. The first issue has been reprinted 4 times. It should still be available. If not, you can find it at Comixology, or the trade comes out in January. And then I am actually writing a small story for Dark Horse Presents called The Black Sinister that my buddy Troy Nixie is drawing. And that's another story of super wealth. It's actually a super wealthy billionaire superhero who protects the city from itself with insane, crazy ways. And that's coming out right now. I think chapter 2 or 3 just hit the stands this week. And I'm writing Iron Fists, being drawn by the amazing Afu Chan. I'm just writing it, and that will come out in the summer. And then if I can just plug, I have directed a little bit of TV this year. I had 2 episodes of a show called Aftermath. It's on the Sci-Fi Channel. Both this week and last week were my episodes, and that stars James Tupper and Anne Heche. And it's a crazy show. It's really cool. It's about every week is another like world-ending apocalyptic event. And then I have a Disney show coming out called Mech X4, and I believe my first episode airs November 27th. And that's a show for kids. It's kind of Pacific Rim for boys. Should be pretty fun. All ages. It's finally a directing project I can show my 5-year-old. So it's pretty fun. Most of the stuff I can't show him. He's been in as a baby. He's been in one of my crazy movies, and I can't show him because it's just too violent and too crazy and too scary. But that's kind of where I am right now. And then I'm just doing a bunch of variant covers. I don't have a lot of time, but I owe a few favors. So there's a Reborn #2, a variant cover that just came out this week from Mark Miller and Greg Capullo. I did one of their covers for them. That's a cool series. Check it out. And doing a couple of covers for my buddy Warren Simmons at Valiant. I owe him a few favors. So, just trying to catch up, come through with some favors, owe people, work on Renato Jones, and, living the dream, as they say.
Like I said, you're a Renaissance man. You're doing it all.
I will. Yeah, sometimes a little too much. I just finished writing my first pilot, which was pretty fun. Wow. And I'm just tightening the last couple screws on that, and I'm gonna hand that off to my reps probably this week or next week, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens next. It's a fun world out there where you can do more than one thing. You don't have to just be a penciler or just be a writer or just be a comic guy or just be a TV guy or just be a movie guy. All those mediums are kind of blending together, and I like doing all of it.
Yeah, I mean, just that whole list, it sounds like a daunting task, but as a father of a 3-year-old, I know you have a 5-year-old.
Well, I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 9-month-old.
Oh, then you're even more of a superhuman, my friend.
Well, this is what I'll tell you. You have the 1 3-year-old?
Yes.
Any plans for any more?
Not sure yet. Maybe.
So 2, just as a little father advice, this is what I can tell you. 2 is not twice as much work as 1. It's not. It's pretty fun. However, 3 is more than 3 times the amount of work as 1. It's a big drop. It's a steep hill. That third one. That's your warning. That's all I can say. But I love them all. But man.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to work, everyone. The great Kaare Andrews.
All right.
That's it, everyone. Until next time. Enough said.